Thunderbirds. I'll go. Right. Welcome to Cab Chat. This is episode number 285. And don't forget, if you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe down below and hit that bell notification so that you get notified of any future videos we do. Unfortunately, Tom's not here today because he's not feeling too great. He's feeling a bit under the weather, so he's decided to dip out. We've already recorded something this morning, so he's decided to dip out and just allow me to talk to you, Grant. So on the podcast today, we've got Mr. Grant Davis from the London Cab Drivers Club.
Hello, Jamie. How are you?
I'm very well, Grant. So we're going to talk about yourself in the trade and the London Cab Drivers Club in this episode.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a cab driver, Grant?
38 years.
38 years.
38 years. I remember with you. I remember when you had hair.
Yeah, I did used to have hair, yeah. And yours was...
we go back.
Yeah, yours was a lot darker than it is now.
It was a lot darker. I've touched it up a bit. This is the old George Clooney dye I put on it, yeah? No, it's a long time. I mean, you know, me and you go back a long way. Penton Street. I used to go to BJ's Knowledge School off of Bethnal Green Road. I mean, I look at the trade now and I know it's sort of fundamentally the same. It's changed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know whether it is for the better. I mean, there's a lot of things that upset me deeply about this cab trade. And, it's all great, positive. We all want the cab trade to survive and prosper and carry on.
Yeah.
I think a lot of some things need to be changing because I think we're being sort of erased, I think, if in other words. I think we don't fit the jazzy London going forward bit. You know what I mean? I think we're very much perceived by some in power as like a bit of an old relic. You know, old black cabs. They all push us out when the Olympics are on, didn't they? I think, you know, they want to use us, the logo, the iconic black cab. But I don't think they really, if I put my hand on my heart, look after us as they should.
Yeah.
That's just my view, you know.
So what made you want to do the knowledge in the first place?
Well, when I some goals here. When I left school, I grew up on an housing estate. At first in Kennerton and then in Brixton, 6 of us. And my dad always said to me, Grant, you need a trade. So when I left school, I was lucky enough through a friend's brother to get a plumbing apprenticeship. And there'll be some watching this going, I told you he was a plum, right? But I've done a plumbing apprenticeship. That was like 3 or 4 years, me sitting in guilds. And then the company I used to work for, Molums, offered me another year extension to my apprenticeship to do an advanced city in guilds, which was like air, oil, compressed gas. And I've done that, yeah. So I've done me guilds and I was working on various building sites around London. And it sort of I think it was the recession was coming or was here. And they said, look, the only big jobs we got now is up in Coventry. And there was one in a place called Redcar I've never even heard of. And like I said, this was for Molum, which was a really big, it was orange with a white M on it, right? And they said, they come down to visit the site and said, look, guys, work's really drying up. You're going to have to move on, yeah? You're going to move up the Redcar. And when I spoke to some of the older plumbers there, they went, oh, that's great. You know, I'll get away from the Whiteman kids. I'll get a little B&B, make a few quid on that and go to the pub every night. And every one of those things they spoke about, I didn't want to go nowhere near. I was happy in London. You know, I live in, like I said, in the sort of South London. I had great mates. Was boxing still at the time for Fitzroy Lodge. And that was going really well. And I just thought, this is going to rock the boat in so many ways for me, you know. But obviously you need a job, right? And my older brother, Mark, who's a cab driver, he had been working for BT for years. And he said to me, Granty, I was around my mum and dad's one night, and he popped in from work and said, oh, we're looking to take people on. And I explained to him and said, oh, I'd rather stay in London and work. Anyway, I got a job with BT doing fibre optics. It was a whole new division, and we was going to Bletchley on courses to learn how to splice fibre optics, fuse them together. It was an interesting job, right? I liked it. And at the same time, I had a couple of friends, one who was at BT. I made friends with a guy called Clayton Dillon. And then my mates, Johnny Wicks, his dad, Alf Wicks, used to have a garage in South London, and his mate, Jimmy, and I used to go out with them socially. Johnny said to me one day, I'm going to do the knowledge. And I said, what's that? And he said, oh, my brother. And I always used to look at his brother, Jimmy, and he always used to have the lovely clothes. There was a shop in Bermondsey called Motor Free, and he always used to have the jumper on that was in the front window and lovely Italian shoes and a lovely Rolex and stuff like that. And I thought, he's what's he doing? And he said, my brother Jimmy, he's a cab driver. He said, and my dad's a cab driver and has got a garage. He said, I'm going to do the knowledge. I said, you know what? I'm going to sign up with you. And so all of a sudden I had a couple of friends as well who got involved. And I'd done the knowledge whilst working at British Telecom in central London. The office was at Praed Street, and we used to work there, and I used to work for my brother. And back in the day, it was very different working practices. You know, my brother, I would meet my brother in the morning, I'd take my moped, he'd have the van. And it was sort of the old saying, I don't know if you remember it, Jam, there'd be a saying like, job and knock.
Job and knock.
Yeah. And he'd say to me, right, listen, I'm going to go to the I'm going to have breakfast. Then he'd say, well, I'm going to the stores. I'm going to go to the betting office, and then I'll be back. And he'd say, I want that done. I'm going to set it up. You do it. And when I come back, you bring me up to date. We'll have an out again, and then you can go. So I was at places like Maida Vale and the West End, and that was it. Then I would get on my bike about maybe 2 o'clock, half 2, and do me runs on me points, and then I used to go to BJ's. So I was very lucky in a sense that I couldn't afford to do it and I wouldn't have done it full time. I had no money. I needed money. We all do. And so I was very lucky there, my brother, to get me in. So I had a job where I could earn me money, and then I could go and do the knowledge. And then very similar, actually, to what happened on the building site, British Telecom said, right, you've done all the fibre optic network in the West End, Maida Vale and all that. And what we're going to do, we're going to switch you over to be doing stuff in people's houses and all that. Installation. It was like a new cable TV. It was like Westminster Cable, they called it. And it was going to be the first ever cable TV that's piped into people's houses. All the big estates was all block wiring and that. And he called me in and said, oh, Granty, you're one of the fellas we're going to put you, he's a bit smart and all that. We're going to put you on home installs. I said, oh, I don't really want to do that. He said, well, you got to, right? And I said, oh, flipping hell. He said, you're going to start about 6 o'clock or 4 in the afternoon. That'll take you to about 8 or 9 at night. And again, being a young fella, not married or anything, I said, oh, I don't fancy it. And he said, well, you better fancy it, right? Because you start Monday. So this was like on a Wednesday. So I'll give it long and hard. And I was renting a cab, I think from Alf Wicks. And I went out, like the Friday, I had Friday off, didn't feel too well. And went out Friday, went out Saturday, Sunday in the cab. And by the next week, I decided I was going to go full time, and I phoned BT up and went sick, as you did back in the day, went sick. And then when I come back, he sat me down and said, right, Grant, this is what's going to be happening. And I got my badge. I'll never forget. I had my badge in my jacket. And I took my badge and I said, Roy, I remember his name, lovely old fella. I said, Roy, I won't be doing that. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, this tells me that I'm going to go and drive a black cab. I knew I heard you was on the knowledge, he said. But it was good. You know, I always grafted and I got into the cab and I'll never look back. I've loved this job from the moment I started to today. Every time I go to work, and again, I'm lucky because some cab drivers don't like the job, right? They moan about it. But I've got to say, hand on heart, every day I've gone to work, listen, we've all worked through recessions, Jamie, haven't we? Yeah, when it was bad, right? We've all been there. And so I'm not wearing no like rose-coloured spectacles, but I've got to say, I love this job, and I've always loved it, and I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it in the younger years. And I don't know. I mean, you remember me as well from Dialer Cab, you know.
Yeah.
And because we loved this job, Jamie, and I know you do passionately, right? I was always sort of against the threats that I thought was coming, and on Dialer Cab, it was the private hire.
Yeah.
If it wasn't LCDC, we used to have drive-ins under Alan Fleming, drive-ins at all the town hotspots, and there was big London cab drivers demos, Tony Casey and stuff. It then went on to seeing Dialer Cab bringing on private hire services and saying, "You're mad, aren't you? We're black cabs. Why are we promoting mini cabs to our customers? This ain't going to end well, you know."
So before we get onto that, how long did it take you to do the knowledge?
Two mopeds and about three and a half years. It's a long time. I struggled a bit on appearances, actually. I think the nerves sort of got to me quite a bit at times because I'd be sitting there in front of them and they'd ask me, as they do, take me from, I don't know, Redcliffe Gardens to somewhere. And I just couldn't see it. And that time that you
still can't.
Still can't, yeah. Thanks for that, James. And the moment that you had in between answering him back, it just went. So I do know that, sir. You go out on the bike at all, Mr. Davis? Yes, sir, I do, sir. Yeah, I go out hard, sir. Thinking, where is that place? And then I'd have to drop it, say, sorry, sir, I can't see it. And then afterwards, as you're walking down the steps, you go, oh, of course it is. I know that. And you know, so, yeah, some people fly through it. I wouldn't say I struggled immensely, but I didn't really have it, you know, I didn't think it was easy. I did work hard and I struggled a little, I guess.
So you're chairman of the London Cab Drivers Club.
Yeah, proudly so, yeah. And
you got involved with the London Cab Drivers Club probably about the same time as I did, 1993, 94 originally.
I think originally it was with King's Cross, and Cherries had the bus.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to join, you went into some little room and Dave Cohen was there that used to give you the form and stuff like that. So again, you know, I used to read the badge, right? And I thought, oh, these fellas like want to protect the industry. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was lovely. And I loved that sort of guerrilla thing, what they used to do. You know, go to these demos, flash demos. And I thought, yeah, you could see the passion in the drivers that was running the club then. And that appealed to me really a lot, you know.
So you're now chairman of the London Cab Drivers Club.
I am.
What made you want to become chairman? I remember the AGM when you became chairman of the London Cab Drivers Club because Alan Fleming stood down and you put yourself forward to become chairman. Yeah. There must have been an impetus that made you feel that there was something you could do and the reason why you wanted to become chairman at the time.
Yeah, 100%, Jamie. Like I said, I've been a cab driver like 38 years. I think I was about a year into it. I was finding me feet still, as you do, don't you? You know what I mean? 'Cause it's not like any other sort of job, is there, really? Yeah. Getting used to the hours and the people and eating at shelters and just really new job for me. And then I joined the club and I used to enjoy the AGMs, and I started getting little jobs off of Alan, like getting paste, and you'd make up wallpaper paste and we'd get posters printed. And then like after sort of midnight, I'd be driving around London, putting a bit of wallpaper paste on the back of post office, post boxes and walls and toilets and sticking them on, you know. And I love that, and I really love that. And then I got on the committee, and yeah, I got on the committee for years, and then I become vice chairman. So it was a sort of progression, really. And with Alan Fleming, he would take me to meetings and like say, "Look, come to this meeting, Grant." Bomb, and he was great, Alan. He walked me through it all, and oh no, I really enjoyed it. And
So from this point in the interview, something actually went wrong with Grant's recording, and the file was corrupted. So we're going to have to get Grant on at some point in the future to finish off this interview and talk about the things that we actually spoke about when I was doing the original interview. If you want to see more from Grant, tune in next week or download next week's episode or view next week's episode, whichever way you prefer to absorb Cab Chat. And he'll be talking about why he believes London needs another vehicle available to drivers. Until next week, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell notification to make sure that you get informed of any future videos we produce. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, don't forget to follow us and subscribe. It's free of charge to subscribe on YouTube or in the audio podcast. Doesn't cost you a single penny. So why not do it? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be lucky out there.